Welcome back to Saturday 6. I'm Rob Bowron, and today we're going to talk about some college football. But that's actually what we always talk about. It's if this is your first time tuning in, as I have to cough again, we're going to run through 6 games for the upcoming week for the college football season. We're going to run through them from an advanced stats perspective. All the stats are going to come from Bowron, an advanced stat system built on the same data provided to the College Football Playoff Committee. I'm the econometrician chicken behind Bowron. This is week 3 is not great. I mean, there's not really a headline matchup this week in college football, but I think what's always fun about college football is there are going to be some games that we don't expect to be close that are going to be close. So there will be, you're not going to have to work too hard, I think, to find a really good game out there. But that said, we may not know which games are going to end up being close from the get-go. It's like I said, it's not the world's greatest week, but this week, like all non-conference games in college football, is going to help provide the sinews that sort of tie at least advanced stats, the ability to make comparisons across conferences together, not just first-order connections, but second, third-order connections, sort of tying the entire college football season together as we look at it. We had a really fun week last week. I sort of got spoiled in a little way. And not only was it a fun week, the games that we expected to be good were good, right? Texas lived up to the hype. Miami got out ahead of A&M. But unfortunately, almost no one scheduled anything. There's nothing saved. Nothing much saved for this week, if you will. But some of the games we're going to see here are because some conferences have already slipped in some conference play. And that gives us an opportunity, I think, for some early season matchups that are going to help us understand where LSU, say, is going to fall this season, where Mississippi State's going to fall this season, start to put it together a little bit more. So if this is your first time tuning in, I think I already said that we were going to run through 6 games. There's going to be I have a timer for 5 minutes in previewing each game. I will try to stick to that. Right now, I should also point out, this is the last week we're going to do this, but all the stats you're going to see are from at least everything under the headline stats of the team rankings are from last year. We don't have enough data yet to really have reliable numbers yet for this season. But by next week, we'll have enough with weighting in some last season data as well to have a better handle on some of these teams. Let's go ahead and hop in. There are, like I said, it's not a murderer's row of games on the face of it, but there's some pretty good matchups, I think, underneath. First off, we get LSU at Mississippi State. This should be a really fun one, I think. Post Mike Leach, of course, who passed on the offseason. Zach Arnett's your new head coach for Mississippi State. Brian Kelly, of course, is your head coach for LSU. And the headline matchup is going to be this LSU offense against this Mississippi State defense. Look, Arnett came over, and came out of that Rocky Long coaching tree, running that Rocky Long 3-3-5. Really good defense. And Mississippi State, it was a tremendous hire by Leach hiring Arnett. Really turned this defense around, got him into the top 10 last season. LSU's offense is under Mike Denbrock. Matt Brock is your defensive coordinator from Mississippi State. LSU looking to have kind of I don't want to say bounce back. They did get taken to the woodshed a little bit by Florida State. Last season, they were number 10 overall in beta rank. You can see this is scaled to the best offense in college football, which last season was Georgia. LSU is about 78% as effective as Georgia at putting up points. Their drive efficiency, their ability to put together long drives to put up points is what really suffered last year. They were fairly explosive, number 9 overall in explosive drives. Something to keep an eye on is they really do need to pick up this season, pick up their drive efficiency if they want to improve overall in their offensive ranking. They did a decent job outside of explosives and play efficiency. This is the least important of the core 4 beta rank metrics, but another impressive number for them, though, is negative drives, avoiding 3 and outs, avoiding turnovers. That's going to be something to keep an eye on here because Mississippi State's, although Jaden Delora certainly gift wrapped some interceptions for them last week. Last season, they were also pretty good at turning the ball over. So Mississippi State, you could drive on them last season. That is a potential place where LSU can have an advantage here. Like a lot of defenses in college football, there's the trade-off, looking to find ways to prevent big plays. Sometimes you're going to give up a little more underneath. So look to see if LSU can put together and sustain drives in this game, because Mississippi State might be willing to make that trade-off. They certainly struggled a little bit last week against Arizona. The Wildcats, despite the turnovers, were in the game. Not often you find a team -4 turnovers taking an SEC team to overtime on the road. Pretty good in play efficiency. Now, the thing to watch out for if you're LSU and to try really avoid is the negative drives, 3 and outs, turnovers. That's something Mississippi State absolutely feasted on last season. They were better against the pass than they were against the run. That's another thing to keep an eye on. Arizona did burn them a little bit throwing the football around. Jaden Delora, despite the turnovers, is fairly mobile. Of course, Jaden Daniels is as well, although Daniels doesn't have quite the deep ball that Delora does. He's pretty efficient underneath and hitting the short stuff, often for an extra gain. Daniels is 65.6 completion percentage so far this season, 10.1 per. I expect that 10.1 per to start to come down as they hit in the conference play. Flip it around to the other side. This Mississippi State offense last season was good overall, number 14 in beta rank. This is not the right numbers. Gosh dang it. This happened to me again. I apologize. Something is not saving properly when I am doing the setup for this. That's really disappointing. Okay, there we go. Mississippi State's offense struggled a bit last season in Mike Leach's final year. That sounded really ominous. In their last year under Mike Leach, they really struggled with drive efficiency last year, putting together long drives to put up points. Kevin Barbe is your new offensive coordinator. They really struggled last week, ran the ball a ton, and I'm not sure that it's their long suit running the football. 26 in explosive drives last season, 48 overall in play efficiency, 33 in negative drives. This wasn't a great offense last year, on the wrong side of the the mean and the Power 5. Not where you want to be. Of course, with Mike Leach, you're going to have a very different run pass split, 120 in effective rush, number 8 in effective pass. I would, if you're an LSU fan, or if you're LSU, you should be expecting to see a lot more run in this game and a lot more balanced offense. Whether that offense is any improvement over what we saw last year is TBD. I'm not sure they are, given what we saw against Arizona. LSU last season was number 12 overall on defense. Matt House is your defensive coordinator. Like we talked about, like a lot of defenses, they were willing to give up something in drive efficiency in order to try to prevent explosive plays. It's number 61 overall in drive efficiency. You could put together long drives against LSU last year. Number 7 in explosive drives, though. They did a pretty good job containing big plays. Pretty good job forcing 3 and outs and turnovers. Number 7 overall here. Like, LSU has a huge advantage. The one thing to keep an eye on is they struggled last year against the run versus the pass. You would definitely want to have a run pass split like this facing the Mike Leach Mississippi State team. This year, maybe not. It's less of an advantage considering how much they ran the ball against Arizona, which was a bit unexpected. We've got this as LSU with an 87% win probability, 14.1 per. LSU, of course, there's a lot of projection in these numbers still coming in, that we have. We only have 2 games in. LSU being held up a bit by the projections. We'll see where Mississippi State shakes out. LSU is going to fall as more in-season data comes in, and we outweight the projections. Mississippi State, of course, may fall just because it doesn't look like right now outside the defense that they're as good as last season. All right. Tennessee at Florida. This is a really interesting game. Josh Heupel, of course, is your head coach for Tennessee. Billy Napier is your head coach for Florida. Heupel, of course, is also your play caller for the Tennessee offense. Austin Armstrong is your play caller, new play caller, and for the Florida defense. Tennessee's offense last season was fantastic, only just behind Georgia in the offensive rankings. Number 2 overall in drive efficiency. They did a really good job putting together drives to put up points. 4 in explosive drives. They were really, and of course, with Heupel, a really explosive offense. Of course, Georgia was even more explosive last season, if that can be believed. More explosive than the Heupel version of the Bryles offense. Number 4 in negative drives. They did a really good job avoiding 3 and outs, avoiding turnovers. Number 12 overall in effective rush. Number 3 in effective pass. They get a Florida defense that had honestly, like overall, other than giving up the first big play, had a pretty decent outing against Utah. Of course, like Utah looked terrible until they got Nate Johnson in at quarterback last week against Baylor on offense. So we'll see. This is going to be a bit of a matchup to tell us a little bit about both of these teams. I don't know that, I expect Florida to improve off of where they were defensively last year at number 40 overall. That's on the wrong side of average for a Power 5 unit. But you could really put together drives against this Florida defense last season. They did give up their fair share of explosive plays, although that's a far better number for them. Number 42 overall in play efficiency. Where they were good was negative drives, forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. They had a huge run pass split. That is maybe a problem going in to face Tennessee. Unfortunately, though, if you're a Tennessee fan, like it has not panned out so far this season as it did last year. Of course, Joe Milton has absolutely struggled. Now his completion percentage overall isn't bad, 66.7% completion percentage so far on the year. You definitely want to be above 65 in modern college football. I wouldn't say that's quite the Mendoza line. You could but let's call 63% sort of the Mendoza line for a modern college football quarterback. But only 6.8 per for Joe Milton in the non-con. That's not great. Like we just talked about with Jaden Daniels having, a 10.1 per attempt. I expect that number to come back as we get into conference play and the opponents stiffen up a little bit. Not necessarily true here for Milton. This should just be higher. It's a little bit of a warning sign, I think, for where this Tennessee offense is and really whether Milton's going to keep the job, I think, over the length of the season. He simply has to improve. This is an opportunity to do it against a fairly quality opponent on the road. Flip it around. This is the sort of, when we were talking about coming into the season, I really did expect Tennessee's offense to just hum, simply because Heupel, it's very quarterback friendly, even if you're struggling a bit. That has not taken place. Billy Napier is your play caller, of course, for the Florida offense. They get the Tennessee defense under Tim Banks that has been improving. And that was sort of my big question about this Tennessee team coming into the season was how much could they improve off of where they finished last season? Florida's offense did not look good. Now, Utah's got a pretty good defense. Florida's offense did not look good against them. Napier did not appear to know what to do when he had to pass the ball in order to win the game. And he really struggled, I think, in particular, without having a running quarterback and there to help as a distraction. Anthony Richardson being gone, I think, hurt a lot. They struggled last season to put together long drives to put up points. They were decent at putting up big plays and decent avoiding 3 and outs. Something to keep an eye on here against Tennessee, whether they're able to put together long drives to put up points. Mertz has been struggling a little bit. They had a big run pass split last season. I don't expect that to be as pronounced because without Richardson there running the football, I think they're just a less dangerous rushing attack too. Tennessee's defense last year made significant improvement up to number 25 overall, and I think has a chance to again improve this season. They were decent at drive efficiency, being able to use the field to their advantage. The offense often gives them very good field position because they score so many points. 23 in explosive drives. They did a decent job comparatively of, stopping big plays. 32 in negative drives. This is a number that they probably need to improve on considerably. Force more 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. They struggled to stop the pass, which is less of a problem, of course, when you get to go up against Florida, because I don't think Mertz and Napier haven't figured out throwing the football around. This is a decent setup for Tennessee's defense, I think, to have a decent game here. Florida's not like the interesting part is I think Florida's defense, it's going to be interesting to see what Milton can do against them. I'm not sure Florida's defense is going to be a top, and I should say Graham Mertz, 73.8 completion percentage, 8.6 per. That makes it sound pretty good. They just haven't really put up a ton of points when it mattered against Utah. And they couldn't seem to put it together much in that game. This game, I think it'll be interesting. It's going to tell us about where Tennessee is. Like they should be able against this Florida defense, even if the Florida defense is improved, to put up significant points in this game. We've got a Tennessee 74% win probability, 6.88. This is potentially a really fun one. This is actually probably, I mean, to be honest, this is probably the best non-conference matchup on the slate this week. I should have led with this one. This is a really fun game. Chris Kleeman's your head coach for Kansas State. Eli Drinkwitz is your head coach for the Missouri Tigers. Colin Klein is your offensive coordinator here, and Blake Baker is your defensive coordinator for Missouri. I didn't think Baker was great when he was in Miami, but he's done a decent job in Missouri. Offensively, Kansas State was very good last season, number 19 overall in beta rank. 18 in drive efficiency. This was more of their bread and butter. Unsurprisingly, they were pretty efficient at putting together long drives to put up points. They were not a terribly explosive offense last season, number 30 overall. Pretty good at play efficiency, their yards per play outside of 3 and outs or outside of explosives. And they did a really good job avoiding 3 and outs and turnovers. There's a substantial run pass split here. Number 5 in effective rush, number 48 in effective pass. Really, the North of Kansas State, and they don't fully run like the full on, like what they run now is a much more modern rush offense. Like the North Dakota State offense that Kleeman tried to run, and when he first came up to K-State, did not work. Now what they have is really humming along. This Missouri defense last season was really good, 13 overall in beta rank. What they did in their trade-off is they found ways to get off the football field. They used the field to their advantage. Number 2 overall in drive efficiency. Now they were susceptible more to giving up big plays. That's maybe something to keep an eye on here, given where they split last season, is they could potentially give up some plays. 24 in play efficiency. They could certainly improve on their negative drives number, forcing more 3 and outs, forcing more turnovers as well. Pretty tough to do against Kansas State. But this matchup should be a lot of fun given how good Missouri was at stopping what Kansas State is best at, right? And there's no big run pass split here for Missouri, so they're going to come in pretty able to, I think, to in a lot of ways to handle what Kansas State's going to throw at them. You want to have a good rush defense, of course, going up against Kansas State. This should be a really, really fun matchup on this side of the ball. I'm very much looking forward to this. You flip it around. Missouri was pretty good last season on offense, number 19 overall. Your offensive coordinator and new coming in, because Drinkwitz has just given up play calling duties, is Kirby Moore. Now this is another rushing offense. Like these are like mirror images of each other last season on offense, even though Missouri's got a really good wide receiver that's going to go to the NFL. Number 18 overall in drive efficiency. They did a good job putting up long drives to put up points. Struggled a little bit more with putting up big plays. Number 13 overall in play efficiency. They were pretty good outside of explosives at putting up their yards per play and at avoiding 3 and outs. Number 15 overall there. Number 5 in effective rush. Number 48 in effective pass. What do they get? They get a Kansas State defense, number 13 overall in beta rank last season. Wait a minute. Something is awry. I think I hit the button. Oh, there we go. Missouri's, yeah, that was wrong. Yeah. Okay. I am a doofus. Man, this is like 3 times this season. Like, I'm just out of it. I apologize. You can scroll down and there are some hidden numbers on these. That's embarrassing. All right. There we go. You were like, but how did that even happen? How did that even? All right. Anyway, Missouri's offense was not good last season. 59 overall in beta rank. Probably why Drinkwitz gave up play calling duties. They're going to get a Kansas State defense that was darn good. Number 13 overall in beta rank. Missouri's defense was not. That one we're going to have to go back and do too. God dang it. Apologies for that. I don't have time to redo this, so we're doing this now. Anyway, Missouri was pretty good at drive efficiency, putting up together long drives to put up points. They struggled with putting up big plays, 58 in explosive drives, 101 in play efficiency. That's not a great number. They were at number 88 overall in negative drives, 47 in effective rush, 62 in effective pass. This tells you why Drinkwitz went ahead and brought in a new coordinator. Defensively last season, Kansas State was really good, number 13 overall. They actually were the one that was really good at drive efficiency, being able to force 3 and outs, find ways to get off the field and avoid giving up points, use the field to their advantage. And their offense often gave them pretty good field position because they did a really good job putting up points themselves, often giving Kansas State defense a starting field position around the 25. A good job against the run and the pass. Missouri's offense simply has to make significant improvements. This is going to be a really big test for them overall. You flip it back, and I apologize. Missouri didn't have quite as good of defense, but they were still good overall, 23 overall. They did a good job, like we talked about, containing big plays. And they do get a Kansas State offense at number 19 overall that is going to run the ball a lot. They're a little bit better against the run last season than they were against the pass. That's something to keep an eye on. Not great to be not good at containing drive efficiency against this Kansas State team. I apologize for all of the confusion with this here. I'm going to do a better job checking what I'm doing. Anyway, this should be a really fun game. Get an eye on where Kansas State, which is a likely challenger and perhaps the best challenger given where and we'll see where Oklahoma sort of shakes out against Texas in the Big 12. Keep an eye on Kansas State here. Even after, Texas' big win at Alabama, Kansas State might still be within spitting distance. Texas turns the ball over 2 times. They might drop the game. This should be a fun one. Probably, like I said, still probably the best game of the weekend. This is going to be an interesting one. This is BYU, who's probably going to struggle a little bit this year in the Big 12, going up against Arkansas, going to Arkansas on the road. This Arkansas team is, of course, coached by Sam Pittman. Kalani Sitake is your head coach for BYU. Offensively, there's a new coordinator in. Dan Enos is your new coordinator in for the Arkansas offense. Jay Hill, the former Weber State coach, who ran a really good FCS defensive team in Weber State, is now your new DC for BYU. Offensively, Arkansas was pretty good last season, 27 overall. That's kind of a middle of the road Power 5 team. Not great. They struggled with drive efficiency, consistency, play calling. Now, Kendall Briles was your offensive coordinator last season. It's not all that surprising that they were, fairly focused on explosive plays given the Briles offense. 21 overall in play efficiency, 23 negative drives. They did a good job avoiding 3 and outs and avoiding turnovers. Huge run pass split here. Number 8 overall in effective rush, number 72 in effective pass. What's coming at you with Arkansas. And I'm interested with Enos because the Briles offense, at least the way Kendall Briles was running it, is a much more run heavy game. Unsurprisingly, that's what you see here. A more true version of it, I guess you could say. Jay Hill inherits a horrendous defense, bad even by group of 5 standards. You could absolutely put together long drives to put up points against this BYU defense last season. They struggled to contain big plays. They struggled to produce 3 and outs. They were not good against the run or the pass. This is going to be a really tough matchup for them. This Arkansas offense isn't exactly humming in the early season. 73.8% completion percentage for KJ Jefferson, 9.1 per. I expect him to have a huge day here. This is going to be the one where it feels like they get back on track because the opponent quality in this BYU defense is really low. Just keep an eye out. If they were to struggle here, that's a bad sign for Arkansas coming in to SEC play. You don't want to be struggling with the defense that has as many problems as BYU does. Now you flip it around, this BYU offense actually wasn't bad. Pretty good for a group of 5 team last season, 24 overall in beta rank. Aaron Roderick is your offensive play caller here. Now they struggled as well, putting up together long drives to put up points, but 23 overall on explosive drives. They were better at putting up big plays. Decent outside of explosive play efficiency, being able to put up a decent yards per play. And they were really good at avoiding 3 and outs and avoiding turnovers, number 17. They have a decent run pass split. They're a much better passing team than they are a rushing team. And that's going to be fun if you look over at the bottom left, because Arkansas really struggled to defend the pass last season. This wasn't a great Arkansas defense last year. This is a bad Power 5 defense. They did a good job finding ways to get off the field and not and avoid giving up points, but you could put together big plays against them. That's a bit of a watch out here. I mean, BYU is going to come in here and they should be able to put up some points in this game, simply because I don't think Arkansas's defense is fantastic. They struggled with negative drives, forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. Their play efficiency wasn't great. Again, outside of explosives, their yards per play was a bit of a struggle. Now, they were a lot better against the run than they were against the pass. That's not necessarily where you want to be in facing BYU. I think you kind of like it the other way around, even with, the new quarterback in town. Keaton Slovis is your quarterback for BYU. He's a lot less mobile than his predecessor, which was one of the main problems with playing BYU in the last couple seasons. They had really an excellent mobile quarterback who could also sling it around. We've got this as Arkansas with a 79% win probability, 9.67 per. I should say we had Kansas State too at 57% win probability, 1.99 per. Whew, this is just not my best. I am not in the mid-season swing in week 3. We've got 39 seconds. We're going to flip it over because we're running a little bit behind on getting through these. I don't know that this is a great game. It's an interesting game. There might not be a lot of offense in this game. Pitt's offense comes in, of course, the Pat Narduzzi offense. Pat Narduzzi is your head coach for Pitt. Neil Brown's your head coach for West Virginia. Now, these are flipped coming into this year, of course. Like, West Virginia is projected a tad higher than Pitt coming into this year. Pitt's offense really look, even 2 years ago, that offense was mostly a product of playing really, really bad ACC defenses, as Nebraska found out to their detriment when they hired Pitt's offensive coordinator, and it didn't work. This Pitt offense is very much in the Pat Narduzzi frame of mind. 61 overall in beta rank. They really struggled to put together long drives to put up points last season. 83 overall in drive efficiency. 37 in explosive drives. They weren't terribly explosive, but it's certainly better than their drive efficiency number. Their play efficiency was all right as well. Again, this is the least important of the 4 metrics, but your outside of explosives, their ability to put up yards per play was quite good. Too many 3 and outs, too many turnovers. They were a lot better running the ball last year than they were throwing it. 43 overall in effective rush, 70 in effective pass. This Pitt offense, look, this West Virginia defense has been really bad. Pitt's offense has been worse than we expected so far this season. And they weren't great last year, but they might be worse than this. This could be a fairly even matchup. Something to keep an eye on this game. This West Virginia defense, Jordan Leslie is your defensive coordinator here. 84 overall last year in beta rank. That's a really, really bad Power 5 defense. Now, their best thing that they were good at was drive efficiency, being able to avoid giving up long drives, and they struggled, giving up a lot of big plays. 89 overall in explosive drives. That's something they're going to have to keep, tamp down on here. Their yards per play wasn't great outside of explosives. Their worst number, though, too few on the 3 and outs, too few on the turnovers. They need to force bad things on their opponent at a much higher level. They really struggled defending the pass last season. That's something to keep an eye on here because Pitt's not great throwing the football. Phil Jurkovic, the transfer from Boston College, 49.1 completion percentage so far, 7.1 per. That is brutal. Frank Signetti is the offensive coordinator, I believe also formerly at Boston College. This is really bad. Anyway, they might be worse than last year, and that might make this an interesting game on this side of the football. Now we flip it around, and this should be an interesting-ish matchup. I mean, look, West Virginia was at least they're at least tolerable. They're at least a middle-of-the-road-ish Power 5 offense compared to what their defense was. Chad Scott's your offensive coordinator here. Randy Bates is your longtime defensive coordinator at Pitt. Now, what West Virginia was really good at last season was putting together long drives to put up points. Number 4 overall in drive efficiency. That's what they excelled at. They were able to cobble that together. They struggled with explosive drives, putting up big plays. They struggled with play efficiency, being able outside their explosive, maintaining a solid yards per play. They weren't great at negative drives. Too many 3 and outs, too many turnovers, no big run pass split. They get a pretty good. This isn't as good as the Narduzzi Bates defenses have been in the past. Those really carried the team year in, year out, unsurprisingly. This is a good Power 5 defense, 25 overall in beta rank. They did a decent job at drive efficiency, finding ways to get off the field and not give up points. They were pretty good at explosive drives. Avoiding giving up big plays, pretty good at play efficiency. Where they were probably best was negative drives, forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. This is their best number. They were a lot better against the run than they were against the pass. That's something to keep an eye on here. Garrett Green for West Virginia hasn't been lighting it up either. Actually, if you like offense, I would not tune into this game, but it should be fun-ish. Anyway, Garrett Green, 57.8 completion percentage, 8.9 per. I wouldn't tune into this if you want to see great quarterback play. Let's put it that way. But the backyard brawl, one of the great traditions in college football. Sometimes it ends up a low-scoring mess. It could be that here. Both of these teams are sort of accident-prone. We've got West Virginia at home here with a 60% win probability, 3.56. This is a really fun one. I'm really excited for this game. James Madison came up last season, and I think one of the things to call out that they did really well from the get-go is they did a really good job on defense. They have one of the best group of 5 defenses in all of college football. Now, their offense by group of 5 standards wasn't bad either. Kurt Signetti is your head coach for James Madison. John Sumrall is your head coach for Troy. This offense for James Madison, Mike Shanahan, not that Mike Shanahan. Mike Shanahan's your offensive coordinator. They did a good job overall at drive efficiency at number 53 overall. Pretty good at I mean, again, like I'm calling this. These are group of 5 numbers. This is a good group of 5 offense. I mean, there are better group of 5 offenses, but this is still a pretty good one. 53 in drive efficiency. They did a good job putting up big plays. 51 in explosive drives. 83 overall in play efficiency. They struggled a little bit here, as well as struggling with negative drives, too many 3 and outs, too many turnovers. No big run pass split here. They get a Troy defense that is also pretty good. Greg Esperato is your defensive coordinator. Now, last season, they struggled with drive efficiency. You could put together long drives to put up points. That's something to keep an eye on in this game because James Madison's not bad at that, but they were really good at containing big plays. And they were even better outside of explosives at limiting your yards per play. The problem is that, yeah, they might hold you to 3.5 yards per play, but you could string together a lot of those 3.5 yards per plays against them last season, as well as giving up some, even though they were avoiding giving up some explosives. They did a really good job at negative drives, forcing 3 and outs, forcing turnovers. They have a pretty good run pass split, number 32 overall in effective pass, number 55 in effective rush. Definitely better against the pass. Could be interesting to see if James Madison can run the ball well. They have Jordan McLeod, former South Florida, former for a very short minute Arizona quarterback. I don't know what his mobility is like because he's had, as I recall, a couple of knee surgeries. I may be exaggerating. I know he had the one when he was at Arizona, but I think he also had an injury when he was at South Florida. Anyway, I don't know what his mobility is like now, but he was quite mobile when he was at Arizona, and he's got an arm. Not always the most accurate quarterback, but I think a very serviceable group of 5 quarterback. 64.3 completion percentage right now, 8.8 per. This should be a really fun matchup, I think, here of this, what has traditionally been a pretty good Troy defense against a pretty good James Madison offense here. You should absolutely tune in to watch this. I mean, it's on NFL Network, so I mean, I'm sure everyone has that, right? I think I have it. I mean, I'll find out on Saturday. On the other side of the ball, Joe Craddock is your offensive play caller. Bryant Haynes is your defensive play caller for JMU. Now, JMU has a terrific group of 5 defense, and it's not easy to put up these kind of defensive numbers with group of 5 talent. Now, Troy, 75 overall. This again is a pretty good group of 5 offense. Now, they struggled with drive efficiency last season. That's something to keep an eye on here. It's a little bit less of a problem because like we talked about with a lot of defenses, James Madison tilted towards not giving up big plays and being willing to sacrifice giving up some drives for points with their drive efficiency numbers. So it's going to kill them a little bit less here. It'll be interesting to see if Troy is able to take advantage of this weakness of James Madison or not. They were better at explosive drive, 62 overall here. Pretty good at play efficiency. This is their best number overall, even though it's the least important. 40. They did a decent job avoiding 3 and outs and avoiding turnovers. They're a passing team. 92 in effective rush versus 59 in effective pass. This is a fun one because James Madison makes their hay on stopping the run. Gunnar Watson is your quarterback here for Troy. He's at 57.4 completion percentage, 6.8. Gonna have to be better than that in this game if Troy's gonna hang around. They get a James Madison defense like we talked about. This is a really good number for a group of 5 defense. Now, you could put together long drives against them to put up points, but they did a good job limiting big plays. Now, outside of those explosives, you could get your yards against them. They did an exceptional job, and something to keep an eye on here is their ability to pressure the quarterback, force 3 and outs, force turnovers. But this is a huge run pass split. 19 in effective rush versus 58 in effective pass. Look, Troy's offense in some ways has some iffy numbers here, and Watson hasn't been fantastic coming into this game. But with what they like to do, they have an opportunity here, I think, against this James Madison defense that hasn't been great against the pass. They could maybe get something going, even though overall you look at this number and say, oh, this is a huge imbalance. Number 32 last season against number 75. You look down below the hood, Troy has an opportunity to make some hay here. We've got this as James Madison, 60% win probability, 2.88. Again, I apologize for, I don't know, like I copied over the same numbers twice. I think I forgot to make sure that I had clicked on Missouri, which would force that to be shown and not just get the same Kansas State numbers twice. Anyway, apologies for that, not really having it together. And I think I did. I had another one on the LSU numbers. All right, not great. I'll be better. We'll all strive to be better in our life. Like I said, this isn't the most flashy week on the face of it, but should still be a fun week in college football. And as some people have commented on Twitter, like, it's better than the off season. Like, you've got something. There are some good games here. We've tried to highlight some of them. There are also going to be some games that we didn't highlight here that have larger spreads that do end up being close because of turnovers. That's part of why we love college football, or just poor play by the favorite. That's a lot of fun. We're going to get some, like, even though like it's going to look like the least interesting game, like somebody's going to get knocked off, I bet, this week. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm excited for it. Tune in next week. We'll do this all again on Monday. And yeah, let's wrap it up. I'm Rob Bowron from Sharp College Football. You can find me at Beta FB and at Sharp College Football. We have a Pac-12 podcast at 12 Pack Radio. You can find all the stats you just saw and a whole lot more at sharpcollegefootball.com. And maybe you can use the website better than I did today. You can find all the back episodes of that podcast at sharpcollegefootball.com/12 Pack Radio. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm really excited. We're closing in on, I always like, my favorite thing is when it's just all in season data in the model and I don't have projections in anymore. That's when Beta Rank really shines. I'm also excited because like by week 5, we'll roll out some FCS rankings. We have that data. It's just not stable enough yet. The FCS has some sparsity problems in the early season. Anyway, I'm excited for this coming year.